Hi, I'm Lucy, and I'm going to be reading a poem I've written in imitation of Angela Narciso Torres' poem, The Abscission Layer, which features in her poetry collection, What Happens Is Neither. This poem has a unique format. It's half sampled from an encyclopedia article and half in Torres' own words, so that it can be read in a number of different ways. It can be read as an encyclopedia which stands on its own, it can be read as a poem which is solely in Torres' own words, or it can be read as the article interspersed with Torres' lines, creating an entirely new piece. I've written a similar poem in imitation of this poem, but first I will be reading Torres' own work as an introduction. The Abscission Layer, a semi-found poem from an Encyclopedia Britannica article on leaf anatomy. Abscission layers form when leaves know when it's time to go, as apples are damaged by insects, disease, drought. Sometimes hearts cannot recoup their normal formation in autumn, like one cracked open, or appears to be, in part at least, when the blues descend due to the shortening of the day, come autumn. Perhaps the shorter days accentuate a lack of dopamine in the brain. The senile changes normal in older leaves, making everything look bleak. As a result, a zone of cells across the jagged calligraphy of twigs, the petiole becomes softened until I can barely lift my head. The leaf falls, a healing layer, infusion of ginseng and bergamot, salves the stem and closes the wound. I breathe, watch for color, leaving the leaf scar, a prominent feature. I look for signs of budding in many winter twigs. In working to create my own poem, I wanted to explore themes that are common to poetry but which are also related to my own life. And in poems that I've enjoyed in the past, I've found a common theme of missed connections, people failing to find each other even though they really should, even though there's some reason for them to cross paths. And in trying to relate this to my own life, I came across the subject of mail, this form of communication which should be so refined and yet sometimes doesn't work out as it's intended to. For the past year and a half, my house where I currently live with my roommates has been receiving misdirected mail for previous residents, and some of these pieces of mail are very important and they're personal to these people who used to live here, but despite our best efforts to return the mail to these people, we've failed to achieve any kind of communication. No one will respond to us, and it's this sort of this unmatched energy of communication from either side that made me want to write this poem, which is half sourced from the U.S. Postal Service's guide on how to return misdirected mail, and half from my own writing. And when read together, I hope that they'll form sort of a dialogue between, assuming myself as the narrator who desperately wants to return this mail to the people where it belongs to, and the previous resident of this house, who I can only assume really wants me to hold on to his jury summons. This is my own poem, which I will be reading in an alternating fashion just as I did with Angela Narciso Torres' poem, and it is called Not at This Address. Not at this address. Despite our best efforts, occasionally we find each other again in writing. Your mail is misdelivered, or is delivered to an old address still on file. Life slows or changes location for an individual. If you are receiving my words until now, they are for you. This is mail for the previous resident of this house, for a person I have never met. I do not know them and do not know their address, simply because I do not want to. What I want is to return the mail piece back to the place where this belongs, between stacks of paper, in the mail stream, by leaving in a white unmarked envelope with your address on it. Bring it to a collection box or other mail receptacle with the notation, "Home at last," or keep it for your own, not at this address, written boldly in someone else's handwriting, marked on the envelope with recriminations that will never reach me. That was my poem, Not at This Address, written for someone I have never met and who I assume I never will meet. Thank you to Angela Narciso Torres for her inspirational work, and for watching.